Hi, and welcome to She Thrives Future Aligned. And I have a very dear friend. Anne Louise is an old friend. What from when was it? How old were we when we got together?
Yeah. I was 18, you were 19.
So long ago. And we,
Yeah.
in the 80s, right? And we grew up in the UK. So you will hear an accent. And Anne Louise is still in Cheshire, in a place called Chester in England. And I grew up in a place called Macclesfield. And where did you grow up?
Well, I was there. I've been in other countries since then, and now I've come back to
Right.
Chester. But I met, well, Macclesfield is where I had my sort of formative years from like 9 to sort of 17 or 18.
So
So
that's where
that
but you met
time.
there, right? We met in those kind of years, early.
But we knew someone probably through a mutual friend, and we got to know each other better later in another country.
Hmm. So here we are, two redheads. And I just want to say this to all the redheads out there, that redheads out there, you're fine. It isn't just your hair color, it's your fuel and your superpower. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. And I just wanted to ask you, actually, when you were at school, did you ever get made fun of for having red hair? I'm just curious.
Oh my goodness. And so this is a funny thing, right? They call you carrot top, but the top of a carrot is green. So I would always retort with that. And yes, when people would bully me about the color of my hair, I would say, come over and hear it say that. And I was often in the head teacher's office for getting into a little wrestle tussle with people. Yes, for sure. Yes, I was a feisty little burger. How about you?
Yeah. Well, do you know, it's weird because I don't really remember being made fun of at school for being ginger. Like there were maybe times throughout secondary school when I might have gone through a little phase where I was bullied for something, but I don't remember it being about that. And I don't know why. Because
Hmm.
now, I'm a teacher and I, like other kids, I hear it all the time. And I remember being quite shocked when I went into it that people are being really bullied about having ginger hair at school. But yeah, I guess I was quite lucky. Maybe it was a nice school where that didn't happen, but I see it and hear it all the time now. So it's weird, isn't
Right.
it?
It is weird, yeah. I mean, and at the time, I had a boy's name. Ashley was attached to a football player who was Ashley
Mm.
Grimes. And so they're like, and you got a boy's name? And I was like, oh, yeah, come here and say that.
But I
Ashley,
mean, hair was just so you couldn't miss it because it was so long and so like the color and the corkscrew curliness. So I
yeah.
guess people it was so unusual and so wow that I guess they didn't know quite how to react to it because you couldn't ignore it.
It's a
Yeah.
bit, I don't know if you've seen the movie Brave, where it's about this, it's a animation, right? And she's just this feisty princess who got this red curly hair. Love that, love that. Anyways, so I feel an association with her. But I wanted to
Yes.
talk. So I wanted to talk about our adventures in Marin County in the Bay Area, where we were nannies. I was 19, you were 18, is that right? So why don't you start? Because I think you were there before me and kind of set the tone of your family and what have you, and I'll jump in.
So I'd always wanted to experience something a little bit different in life. I'd started off, I was a little bit shy. I wanted to kind of put myself out there and try something new, but I wasn't quite sure how to go about it. And my mum one day said to me, 'cause she was a teacher, "Oh, the headmaster at my school, his daughter is working as a nanny in a place just outside San Francisco in the States. And she knows people who need nannies. So that these kind of wealthy American couples who wanted to get an English nanny because having an English nanny was a bit of a status symbol because we had no training thing. But because we were English, somehow we were trustworthy. So I think there was a couple of letters exchanged, and that was it. And then off I
'Cause-
went. They would pay for my fare to get there, and then I would live in their house, and they'd pay me like a small amount each week, and then I would work, sort of weekdays and occasionally a weekend night for babysitting. Most nights would be off, but in the day you'd be kind of having charge of the children and doing maybe a little bit of light housework. It depended on how much money's worth they wanted to get from you. But yeah, and you drive their car, you take their kids to school, pick them up, look after them until they'd come back from work or whatever they were doing, tennis lessons, the mums.
And what kind of car were you driving there, Miss Anne Louise?
Well, I did work for one family, but then I left and went to another one because there was a bit of a misunderstanding
Mm.
about their car, let's say. And so the second family I went for, they had three Mercedes, and one of them, the oldest one, which wasn't actually that old, was the car that I used to drive. And it was white and it had leather seats.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was amazing.
I remember the smell of the leather seats, right? It was the four door, and it was a diesel because I remember that
Yeah,
sound. It was like,
yeah, there was like,
right?
yeah, but I felt like I was it driving this car. Great.
And
But
so,
yours
and
was better.
I, yeah, and I came in. Well, you'd been there how long before I arrived?
Mhm.
A few
At
months,
least,
right? Six
yeah.
months.
I
Or-
arrived 1985 in sort of June. Do you remember when you
85.
arrived?
I think it was winter because when and I didn't work for a nanny. I worked for a gentleman who wanted me to take care of his dog, JP, who's this gorgeous golden, my color hair, golden
Ginger,
retriever.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
More
just gorgeous.
ginger.
My ginger. So I remember arriving and wearing like, in the 80s, I was wearing a wool sweater dress and I thought I was the shit. And I remember watching the American football, what is it? American football in January, going to a whatever it is, a party for American football. And so that stayed in my mind, and it was wet and it was dreary. And I was like, oh, okay, here we are in sunny California. And then you and I got together, and that's kind of blossomed into this really wonderful friendship. So I wanted to talk about our adventures, especially in San Francisco at that time, because, like you said, we were 18 and 19. You were taking care of children. We'd never had any experience. These people entrusted their babies. Like, how old were your two little girls?
They were like 2 and 4.
Right. And mine were 3 and 5. And we had no experience, but we just winged it, right? But it was a very glamorous time for us because we just passed our driving test at 16, right? We didn't
Yeah.
ever have a car of our own in England. And here we are driving Mercedes. And I eventually left the dog walking assignment and went to work for a family where I was a nanny. And my car was a, what is it called when they don't have a roof?
Yeah, it
A
was for sport.
convertible
No.
Mercedes Benz. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. And I think driving that Mercedes convertible, we would be dropping off the kids, or I would be dropping off the kids, and at a traffic light, there'd be some young boys that go, "Hey, you want to come to a party tonight?" And I was like, "Sure. What's the address?" And things like that would happen to us. We were like this magnetically, like redhead, I don't know, energy that people would just be drawn to. And you always say that I was the instigator of things, but
Yeah, you somehow managed to like turn a short little conversation or a hello into us going to a party or being invited onto a boat going around the San Francisco Bay celebrating the 50th birthday of the Golden Gate Bridge, or a pool party, or there was always like, whenever I was around you, something amazing seemed to happen.
And we're both Gemini, so we've got the twin flame, right?
My Gemini today.
Oh, I love that. But I do also want to talk about, here we were driving these Mercedes-Benz, getting a lot of attention. And you talk about Cafe Trieste because that was our hangout, not the one in Little Italy in San Francisco, but the one in Sausalito. And you had a story that you wanted to tell about being in Cafe Trieste, which was a magnet for cyclists coming and going, artists, hippies. And then all of a sudden, who walked in the door, Anne Louise?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it depends on the age group about who will recognize this name, but Thomas Dolby, who in the 80s was, he was famous for like a couple of songs, but the famous one was She Blinded Me with Science. So if you know that era, you and you would probably remember the video for that because it was a bit quite stylized and quite fun about this kind of sexy like scientist woman with big glasses and a big white coat just kind of coming along, and Thomas Dolby with his spiky hair. Um, and it's
That's
just
right.
quite a fun video. And he was there and I was like, oh, Thomas Dolby, because this was 85, 86, 87 I was there. So that was so, that really impressed me that he was there. Yeah.
Well, so that must have been on MTV, right? Because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have the internet, we did have TV, and music was a big passion, right? I was a disco queen. What was your genre of music that you liked?
Well, I liked all sorts. So I used to be a new romantic, um, but I liked, I had quite an eclectic taste. So basically anything that was kind of danceable at that stage, because we used to go out dancing a lot, didn't we? There were some really
Yes.
fun, crazy nightclubs. There was this one I remember, and it was like in
In
an old motel that had been converted.
in
And
San
in the
Francisco.
downstairs bit, yeah, that used to be the foyer. This whole area was like the club. And then you could go upstairs into all of the motel rooms, and each one, an artist would sort of take it and have like an installation in there. And you could go into sort of just walk in and out of each room and just see everything that had been set up in these different installations. And it was just like wild. We'd never seen anything like it in the UK. But this is San
No,
Francisco,
right,
crazy
San
sort of.
Francisco. Oh, whoops. Remember when we were told when we can drive these beautiful Mercedes cars, the convertible and the four-door, but we weren't allowed to take it over Golden Gate Bridge. And you and I both
Yeah.
looked at each other and we're like, fuck that, we're going to the city, right? Here we are.
You tricked me that one time because um, where we were living was Marin County, which was directly across the bay, wasn't it? And we could see San Francisco, the whole like outline of it from across the water. And then sometimes we would take the ferry. And one time we were going somewhere in the evening, and you kind of tricked me a little bit that we were going to go just across the bridge and just do something, but not too far in. And somehow we ended up going, or I was driving, and I was absolutely terrified. Not only had I taken this car across the bridge, but
Right,
somehow I was driving down Lombard Street, which is
right.
the famous road. And I was absolutely shitting myself because it's quite an unusual road. It's very twisty, turny. And I just, oh my goodness, I was so scared. It was fun.
So you
Afterwards, I was like,
loved me and you hated me at the same time. I said you loved me and you hated me at the same time.
yeah. So
So
we didn't talk about that in front of me.
the what, darling?
We didn't talk about that in front of the. the families, let's say.
Never, 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 never. Even the ventures that we would go to these nightclubs, like you said, in San Francisco, and often get in for free, right? Because we're these pretty girls. And then we would be driving back at like 3 or 4 in the morning. And along the strip, I've forgotten what it's called, there was a 24-hour Safeway. And I had this idea, like you said, I said, let's go to the top of Mount Tam to see the sunrise. And you're like, yeah, but let's get some snacks first. So we went into this 24-hour supermarket, which we'd never experienced in England before. Like 24 hours? Why do you need a market open 24 hours? Blew our minds. But we went in and we got some snacks. My favorite snack that I was a little obsessed with was white chocolate almonds. I just died for white chocolate almonds. Never had them before.
And
That
travel
was
mix. We'd get a bag from these like help yourself things, which now you have everywhere. And there'd be a million different kinds of things you could get. And they had these different sorts of trail mix with chocolate chips and this and that. And we'd walk around the shop eating them and then just like weigh what we had left. And we didn't think of this as steam. Anyway, we did get our snacks.
see,
And
and
then,
then but then we would either chat with some boys, maybe they'd jump in the car with us. I mean, so many transactions like that would happen, like this magnetic redhead English kind of thing that we had energy.
connections, Ashley.
We raced up, very innocent. They were very innocent. We were nice young girls, but we raced up to Mount Tam to watch the sunrise in our nightclub get up, right? With no jackets, freezing cold.
This is crazy, wasn't it? Like, what were we thinking?
We
Yeah.
were 18, 19. That's what we were thinking, right?
Incredible. Literally, the sun rose. We were just sat there, full of our trail mix and white chocolate covered almonds, and you got this kind of panoramic view of the
Yeah,
whole of the Bay Area. It was one of the most magical things I've ever experienced in my life. It
I
really
agree.
was.
Yeah, it was
Like I was
spectacular.
telling you about it, it was literally like.
And that leads to another because we'd had lots of adventures, right? And then can you talk to that wonderful guy named Snoopy?
He was definitely eccentric, let's say.
How did we meet?
Snoopy, well, we would hang out at the old Cafe Trieste quite a lot, and you would meet all sorts of people there, as we've said.
Right.
Um, and he was just there. We were chatting with various people, and he was wearing one of those, those old-fashioned, like Amelia Earhart kind of leather.
Ha-
What would we call it? Like a
with the
flying,
helmet, like a flying
very old.
helmet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Snoopy, the original Snoopy would wear. And this is why he was called Snoopy, because he wore it nearly the whole time. I think because he was balding. He was
Oh,
older
right.
than us. He must have been in his late 30s. Do you think?
35.
Anyway, he lived in a 1950s hearse. It had little dark purple velvet curtains.
Right.
And he slept in the bit where the coffin would have been. He lived in this, but he also had was it a 1952 Chevy or a 62 Chevy? I don't know, a red and white Chevy convertible
Convertible.
car.
Yeah. We have photographs.
Do you remember the day when he said, "Oh, shall I take you to a beach? It's a new beach that you probably haven't seen before." And we were like, "Yes, sure." Do you remember that particular
Yeah.
beach and what transpired?
We went to the beach and I actually have a photograph of that. I have to get those out. What did transpire? Pray do
So,
tell.
to get to this amazing beach on Stinson Beach, you had to sort of drive around up on this beautiful high road with a lovely view of the Atlantic Ocean and everything. It's the Atlantic, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and to get there, you'd park your car in some little spot, and then you'd have to walk this long sort of trail down to get to the beach. So it took quite a while to get down to this part of this particular beach that he said that, not many people knew about. It was like a bit of a secret beach. And we were like, ooh, exciting, intriguing. And we got there finally after this long, tricky walk down, walk around the corner, and it was the nudist beach. So
Oopsie.
there he was with these two girls.
Two redheads.
He'd forgotten to mention that bit,
Hmm.
forgotten to mention that it was a nudist beach. And it wasn't like you just say, oh, do you know what? I'm not quite comfortable with this, and pop back up the very long, because what you're going to do, you can't get home. He's got the car. Yeah.
Right.
So there was that. And
There
but
was that.
then the funny thing is, like, okay, I was really nervous about it. I think, did we go topless? I think
I
we
think
did go top.
we did go topless, which we were fine with because in England there's a lot of nudity and I was okay with that. But we didn't take off our pants, our panties. We
Yeah.
kept those on.
You know what? In the end, I was quite glad that we'd found out about this beach because subsequently I went to that beach by myself a few times because it was actually quite a nice atmosphere, quite a chilled atmosphere, and you didn't get hassled or anything, because we'd been like, but actually, when you got there, it was really nice. And there were times when I would go there by myself, and I
Well,
would never dreamed of doing that, like maybe in England, well, apart from being too cold, but just feeling like free to do that. But there you were in another country and just trying new experiences as we did all the time. And it just became one of my favorite places to go.
wow, I love that. And I
Thank
remember
you for me.
yes, well done. Adventure, adventure. We also love to go thrifting, right? In Haight Street. And then there was this really great thrift, what they call place to go in Marin. And it was just
Was it
flea market. Thank
was
you.
it was it in
It was in
Marin City or
Marin
somewhere
City,
beginning with
which
F? Fact? Am I
no, it
dreaming?
was in Marin City. Yeah, no, which is now no longer. It's been built up with all the stuff. But for many, 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 many years, even when I came back to San Francisco, it was still there. Back in the early 90s. Yeah.
Oh,
So
buying
yeah.
all these cool things, like from, I guess, because some of them were from all over the world. Because if you think America is so filled with people from so many different countries and cultures, and at some point people might sell up or whatever, and there were so many bits and pieces, and it was just fascinating to see what was on offer. There'd be
Another
someone selling their last few things to get some money together, or just someone who's like a bit of
wheeler dealer.
the stuff. Yeah, maybe a dealer. But it was amazing to see the things.
But I think, didn't
And
you get like some lingerie or something? I felt like you got something silky.
we, I've not from there, but we went to around Haight Ashbury. There were some incredible secondhand shops, and
Yes.
we bought. I think it was on the same day. These beautiful long men's sort of dressing gowns, smoking jackets, things like that. With they were made of like a heavy sort of silk and they were really swishy and lovely. You got one that was black and gold, and
Yes.
I got one with like a deep, almost like reddish maroon and a bit of golden white on it. And we went clubbing
And
wearing these open, but with like some stuff underneath. And they were so cool to dance in because they just kind of swished
and
about.
we also went to a seedy club that was playing the Rocky Horror Show. Do you remember? It was on Market Street, and it was probably an old, like, I hate to say it, but pornographic establishment. But they were playing the Rocky Horror Show, and we decided to go. And we had probably been to a club or what have you. We went there first. I can't remember all those details, but we went in these outfits, and we were like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to sit down." But we were so into the show, and yeah, we were kind of okay. Well, this was an interesting experience, and and then went off somewhere else. But yes, the amount of places that we ventured to and experiences that we had really, I think, empowered us as young women. And we weren't that. I mean, I was still loyal to my boyfriend back home. I don't think we were just having experiences and having fun, right? But I
Yeah.
do remember us going to we'd gone to a nightclub, we got invited to a private party, and at this private party, they had ecstasy, and I was driving, right? And so I couldn't partake, and I didn't drink at the time, and you did, and you were like, "Oh my God, it's like, oh my lip."
Also, that this was like 1985 and it had only just
Yeah,
become illegal because it
right,
had been used, in psychotherapy to help people get in
right,
touch with their feelings, everything. And as I say, it had only just become illegal and it was not like the dangerous thing that you have now. It was more pure, it was more. But I just thought, like, I'd never even smoked weed in the UK before. I
me
barely
either.
drank. Then
No,
suddenly, someone say, "Oh, do you want to try this?" I'm like, sure. And I did. It was like, it was quite mind blowing for this, quite, how can we say, sheltered.
yeah, we
But I guess that was it. America, everything just seemed so amazing. And so all these experiences, and you try things that you'd never really tried before because you're in a whole new place. You were kind of treated a bit differently. And so you kind of grew into that and tried these new things.
but listening to
Expanded your
you,
horizon.
yeah, but listening to you go through that, because you're a sensual woman anyways, was just, I mean, I definitely envied and regretted being able to partake in it, because it looked like it was so much fun. And don't forget, you were on that for quite a while. So, I'd go and dance and come back, and you were like, oh, okay, I'm going to go dance. The what?
Literally, in our little group, I was just the only person. I don't even know like why no one else was having it. Why it was me.
Yeah.
Didn't we go to Denny's afterwards? Denny's
Yes.
pancake, as you do.
Another 20, another
Denny's
24-hour place that we were like, why are places open 24 hours, right? But yeah.
never tasted so good.
And then just to round this up, we did at some point date, because we're such sassy, crazy ladies. We did date the same boy, right?
Boy, I don't know about boy because remember he was a
Right.
lot older than it,
It
wasn't
was a
it?
lot. Yes.
Yeah. But I think he was trying to sort of get in there with you. And we sort of dated for a bit, but we didn't quite know about each other until time progressed. But
Right.
then later,
We found
didn't we
out.
like, yeah, we found out after everything had all finished anyway, and we'd moved to America. And didn't we like send him a Valentine's card from the both of us?
Yes.
To
Yes. Yeah.
if he knew, we knew. And we just sent this card to him.
Right. I mean, why not? I mean, it's not going to break us apart, right? And all good, right? But just what message would you like to send to a young girl who's thinking about maybe traveling to another country, just to maybe be a nanny, or to teach English? What would you say?
I just think that everyone, if they possibly can, should live in another country for a while because it sounds like a cliche, but it completely opens up your mind and it makes you think about the world so differently and about yourself and your place in it and other people. And you kind of push yourself into doing things, hopefully things that aren't too dangerous, but it forever changes you
Yeah,
and it just makes you see life very differently and it does empower you. It
yeah.
does.
It really does empower you. And also, I think you can use your intuition to discern if things are safe or not safe, and don't have to be concerned, right? But I think the experience of either being a nanny or teaching English, I taught English in Japan, and that experience really did empower me to keep moving forward and to not doubt myself. It gave me so much confidence. I think you would say the same, right?
I then ended up living in other countries. Well, another country. I lived in Qatar for a while and taught there in a school. And I don't know if I would ever have done that if I hadn't had this early experience,
Right.
in San
Yeah.
Francisco. Anyway,
Yeah. San Francisco, you stole our hearts, right?
yeah, and it was, this was just like a very special place. And it was at a particular
Magical.
time in life before, like, AIDS was only just kind of, you were hearing about it a little bit, but it wasn't like, it hadn't blown up yet. So it was kind of a freer time as well. And it felt like free and safe and fun, and just, it was like a creative time. We went and we did classes together, didn't we?
We did drama,
And we
right?
were just able to explore, and like writing for performance, and all, I did human sexuality class. We were able to just like tap into sort of parts of ourselves that we hadn't really explored, as it were,
Right.
in the
Yeah.
UK.
So
In
either
80.
go with a good girlfriend, and if they're redheads, even better. We'd love to hear your stories. If you are gingers out there, please do reach out and tell us your story, and maybe we'll have you on the show. But I'm sending everyone so much love. Thank you, Anne Louise. I love you dearly. And we'll see you soon for She Thrives Future Aligned. Take care, everybody.
Bye.